You're listening to Level Up Your Business, the podcast where we talk to hardworking business owners and leaders and help them solve real issues in real time. I'm your host, Sara Frasca, restaurant owner, keynote speaker, and business coach. I've spent my career not only in corporate America, but also as an entrepreneur, carrying on my family's legacy through my restaurant. Now, a business coach and consultant, I'm helping other businesses to use creative problem solving and innovative thinking to drive lasting change. Stay tuned to hear some inspiring guidance that will help you to level up your business. Okay, well, hello to everyone out there. Sara Frasca here, joined in my home studio office with Ann Shaw. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
And Mike Zappone, who is just across the state on the other side of Florida. Hello, Mike.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I figured we could start out with a little bit of an introduction of who each of us is. And because I'm the one talking, I'll start. So I'm Sara Frasca. I am the co-founder of Point Northeast, which is a business growth consulting firm. So really trying to take all of our clients up and to the right, we call it. So whether that's revenue, profitability, I would say retention, productivity, balance. I mean, it really can span a number of topics and issues. We just really want to improve the life and the work and the business for our clients. So that's kind of the intention of building Point Northeast. I also own a restaurant. I have 5 kids, and part of the background here of how I know Ann is that we got to work together for a while, and that was really fun. We were both coaches in an organization doing consulting similarly. And so I got to know Ann and just obviously fell in love with her perspective, her intentions. I mean, I've very, very seldom come across anyone with as big of a heart of gold, truly, like would give you the shirt off her back, would do anything for any human. I just really
feel like you're talking about yourself right now.
No, I'm talking about you.
Right?
I'm talking about you.
Thank you.
And I just, again, thank you for being willing to be our very first business leader guest on our podcast. I know, it's so fun. So Ann's children and my children and my husband are all at the same school too. So I have to announce that like we have all sorts of community connections. And so we do come across each other. In fact, came across each other at a football game where I said, Ann, do you want to be on our podcast? And she was like, yes. So that's why we're here. Do you want to do your intro next?
I will do my intro next. So I'm Ann Shaw, and I have worked with Sara in the past as a coach, doing implementations, helping companies come up with their vision, and then how to make sure they're strategically aligned from the top all the way through the ranks of their organization so they stay on track. And I also do a lot of business writing as part of my business. And that could be lots of times it's marketing, then it bleeds into customer experience marketing, and then getting into content strategy.
And you write for a lot of big brands. I mean, it's kind of fun. Ann does a lot of writing for some of the biggest brands in the world. So kind of fun, but I know the background on that, know how coveted you are as a writer for some of these big brands. So again, really fun. Thank you.
Yes.
Mike, how about you?
So how about me? So my name is Mike Zappone. I'm a senior advisor with Point Northeast. I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I founded my first company at the age of 19, which I ran for over 30 years and sold it a few years back. I've been doing consulting work since 2008. Started with some of my clients in my one of my companies. I've had a host of businesses, everything from restaurants to commercial real estate development and kind of a little bit of everything. So really enjoy working with small business owners and diving in. And I think the neat thing about what we do at Point Northeast is that we're not just pointing out the issue like, hey, your profitability is low or this is the issue. We're really diving in deep and solving the problem. And I'm really excited to hear what's keeping you up at night. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's a lead in to the podcast. So, we call it Level Up Your Business because we want to continually take all of the metrics up and to the right. But we just started this. And so there's some real intentionality with how I kind of wanted this to come to life. I want it to be real people helping real people. And so in that, I mean that we have had no insight as to what Anne is going to answer with this question. And it actually came up during the course of the week, like, oh, should we get some clues from her?
Mhm.
But no, like, I really think that this is one of our strengths at Point Northeast. And, if a business owner, a business leader comes to us and says, I am having trouble with X, Y, and Z, we will dig in. And it doesn't matter the topic. And I guess maybe another one of these kind of strengths for Point Northeast, in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, but like, I'm not afraid to be wrong, right? Like, I'm not afraid to have really dumb ideas. Like, in a brainstorm, in working with someone, there might be, 24 ideas we come up with, and only 2 of them might be good.
And you don't know what ideas of yours will spark ideas with other people too.
Agreed.
So, mhm.
Agreed. And so I think that's the energy that I'm looking to bring with this podcast, is just like having a business leader answer the question, what is keeping you up at night? What are your challenges?
Mhm.
Said another way. And then we'll just dive in and have a conversation. We'll riff back and forth. Let's see if we can't solve your challenges.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So with that, I would say I'm going to grab my pen and paper,
Mhm.
because I really want to make sure I'm taking good notes as you tee
Okay.
this up. I would
Okay.
say you don't have to be brief. Just like give it to us. Like,
Yeah.
tell us what's keeping you up at
Perfect.
night.
So I'll give a little background of kind of my lifestyle and the reason I do have my own business.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to give kind of like 2 options, Mike. So maybe that'll make you feel a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could do both, or you guys can choose, zero in on whatever. So
Okay.
for me, the reason I started my own business was sort of, I would say, accidental. I worked in corporate marketing, was doing very well, really enjoyed it, loved my employer, but I was a mom of young children, and we had some bad experiences with childcare where I no longer felt comfortable and just felt a pull for either my husband or myself to stay home with the kids. So it went back and forth. There were a few different times that he almost stayed home and whatnot, but I ended up staying home and saying, okay, I'll do some freelance writing. We'll see how it goes. So my employer became one of my first clients, and it snowballed, word of mouth. I felt guilty because I would be preaching marketing consulting advice that I didn't take myself, because for me, word of mouth was enough. So I just kind of was trying not to start a business because I was thinking focus is at home. But thankfully, it became successful enough that I really did need to organize an LLC and file as an S corp and all that good stuff to make sure I was being wise and paying in taxes and things. So did organize my business, became an LLC. And when I was working with the company that Sarah and I both worked for, we were both independent as our own businesses, subcontracting, I guess, for that one. So that's why I have my business. So I'm always balancing. Now the kids are older, I could really dive in more, but balancing out my goals of having my business support my life and not catering my life too much to my business. Okay, so right now, the 2 challenges that I have are business services, so bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, costs. I mean, every business cost going up.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to keep my expenses very, very low. Have a very simple. If you look at my books, super simple. Really, my only regular expense, besides payroll of myself, was my accounting firm.
Okay.
And they raised their price 50%. And I thought about it and decided to do away with it and figure out if I want to do it all myself. Which I kind of did my own bookkeeping anyway, but they had my back when it came to all the taxes. It's good peace of mind to have when you're not an accountant, to know somebody who knows what they're doing.
Right.
And then, so I'm trying to decide, do I take it all on me, or do I find another local or something like that? So that's the first one.
Okay, I got it. That's great.
And then the second one, make it more, it's an interesting, we'll see what you think. Okay, so as a writer, a lot of people in my industry are worried about generative AI. And I have actually written about AI for the past couple of years, not generative AI, but AI in general, and potential opportunities that are coming,
Wow.
and then the potential risks that are coming to businesses that use it.
Yes.
So machine learning and AI, interesting. And now the fact that you can use a tool that will write everything for you.
Right.
And to me, I see risk. Of course, opportunity. We're talking about prices going up, and businesses say, hey, that's when I can lower my costs.
Mm-hmm.
I can use this very cheap flash to write anything I need for my marketing, my website. But there are risks that come with that. And so to people in my industry too, it's, do we embrace and use that AI to make our output increase and use our time more wisely? But what risks come with that? And I have my own ideas developing about it. But for me too, on the consultative side of helping businesses understand, okay, this is the wise way to use the tool, and there are some unwise ways to use it. And then two, I mean, existentially, will I no longer be needed in the next few years as a writer, right? So that's the two, the more practical side, and then the future vision side.
Okay.
So I just wanted to ask you to reiterate, because the mic broke up just a hair during the first one. So can you just give me the summary on number one? I just want to make sure I have it clear.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so the business services costs going up. For all businesses. And then for my business specifically, my accounting and tax service was 50% higher starting, it was this month. I canceled it. Yeah, so that's my main expense beyond my own payroll. And I just also wasn't super satisfied with how tax season went last year. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
I really ended up doing it myself. So I thought, might as well just do it myself for free.
Totally.
But I don't know that I feel 100% confident on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, logistically, I'm curious, Mike, if you want to mute your mic as we are talking, only because I think it is reverberating on your end. I'm not sure if that's our technical issue, but again, that's not my strong suit, so I might be wrong. What do you think? Sounds a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I do have some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I'm going to the first one first. Okay. So you and your husband have both an interest in working, but also being a family and making sure that your kids have the support necessary. Mm-hmm. How many hours are you working, or how many do you desire to work?
During the school year, I usually work up to 35 hours per week. During the summer, I try to keep it to 20-25 a week.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you about seasonality, whether you took time off for the holidays or for the summer, or we happen to be in a school district that is not a year-round school. So we do have about 9 or 10 weeks off in the year.
We do. And so during those times, I'll scale back, or I work way, way ahead. So leading up to a vacation or the holidays, I might work more hours, get a front load. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the types of engagements you're taking. Are they monthly retainers, or are they more project-based or hourly, or how are you?
I like to have a mix of both. Okay. A lot of times with freelance writers, you hear chase the retainers, get the retainers. And that's great. And you have that sort of guarantee for the length of the contract of a steady income.
Yes.
But I do think if you lean too heavily into retainers, you're starting to put all your eggs in fewer baskets. And it could be devastating to lose, a client.
Yes.
So I have a mix of small retainers. I try not to take any on that are too big. I have in the past. So I have a mix of small retainers and then long-term project-based clients where we've been working together for 8 years, but everything we do together is project by project.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, so this is on just kind of your overall team. Mm-hmm. So you do have a CPA that you've used in the past, but you didn't in the last year.
So that service is a company that was created for small businesses, especially S Corps, LLCs, solopreneurs, to help them set up their LLC, which I had done myself, but they'll help new companies set it all up.
Okay.
It's a great idea. And then they'll do, bookkeeping, taxes. They'll help them set up payroll and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And they'll do their taxes, personal and business.
Okay.
I kind of was using grace with this company because they were a startup.
Sure.
When I was one of their first customers. So it's a really great model, and they can be really helpful. I just think for me, having such a simple organization.
Yeah.
I didn't need all the extra help they could give me, but I was paying for it.
You're not employing anyone else,
No,
any other
I
vendors?
occasionally use a subcontractor.
Okay, all right. And then you just pay them like based on an invoice that they turn in. And okay. So what about an accountant or like who's running payroll?
I have it on Gusto. Payroll on Gusto.
So that's like an automatic, like easy
Yes.
system. Okay.
And I'm the admin for that.
Okay, got it. Got it. Are you keeping a P&L like in QuickBooks or in a spreadsheet? You've got QuickBooks set up?
Yeah,
Okay.
QuickBooks and Gusto are the two softwares.
Okay, that's great. Those are both great systems, I think, wise. Nice to be able to like automatically turn in a P&L at the end of the year to your accountant, or if needed. But go ahead, Mike, you had a question.
So what was the accounting firm doing for you when it was, were they were entering the data in your QuickBooks, like daily expenses, or give me an overview of what they were actually doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with when we first started, because again, they were a startup, so they were kind of evolving over the course of the 2 years that I worked with them, or that I was their client. So at first they were really heavy in the formation, which again, I didn't need the full thing. I had already set up my S Corp filed as an, or LLC filed as an S Corp, filled out the form where I would get taxed that way. And so, but they did go in, I have Gusto and QuickBooks. They though can go in and set that up for you. And I appreciated this because if you've not done payroll before, it's surprisingly not confusing, I would say, but you question yourself a lot.
Totally.
Am I doing this correctly?
Yes.
Am I going to get bit in the end when I come back? Am I setting up the taxes correctly, the payment schedule, whatever?
Yeah.
So they have accountants on staff who go in and double check, set up both QuickBooks and Gusto. And then they file your business taxes for you. They help you with your personal tax return as well. And then they later on added regular bookkeeping services. Again, I didn't want to use it because I felt I never want to have something in my business being one person band and trying to keep things really simple where I have to depend on someone else and I no longer have any idea what's going on.
Right. Right.
So I didn't, because again, my books are very simple. I like being in them. I like reconciling and categorizing. I want to know what's going on and track my income. But some of their clients, that was great for them. So they added on bookkeeping. Again, I did not use that, but that's something that they would look over my shoulder every month and made sure my books looked good. So those were the services.
So one question I have for you, are you spending a lot of time doing the bookkeeping, the accounting, the payroll, no. So it's not like
the thing that keeps me up at night is, okay, I've never done my business taxes before.
Yeah.
I think I know what I'm doing with it. Is there something I'm missing and I don't know and I won't know till it bites me?
Right.
Yes, so do I need to file something quarterly, or is Gusto doing that for me and I don't have to worry and I just file a simple form at the end of the fiscal year? So
have you ever, I was just curious, have you ever come across a CPA that just does the final look?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think that might be and the reason I bring this up is that, believe it or not, last year, so during 2022, I got audited. My payroll was audited in 2017.
Oh, way back.
Totally. 5 years later. And so luckily I had kept really good records and I was like $12 off or something cuckoo. And they were like, yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
But it does make me nervous. And I would say the risk management part of me would say, protect yourself a bit by just having one final look by someone who does this. This is like changing oil for them, right? Like they know how to do this in and out in their sleep.
I think for me too, I want to make sure it's someone I trust, who other people have trusted.
Right.
So really a lot of referrals probably, because this service that does do this all the time, to your point, like changing the oil as to a mechanic. On my personal tax return, I reviewed what they sent me and I would have missed out on almost 15 grand in tax return if I hadn't caught their mistakes. So then I'm like, I need to make sure it's someone who's good.
Right.
I think they were doing too many. It was a volume problem and a stretch thin problem. But so you two have recommendations.
Yeah.
Afterwards on MSCPA for me, I'll be eternally grateful, because I know someone I love, but they can't take any more clients right now, which I respect. They're making sure they don't make mistakes.
Right.
So,
yes. Well, I have someone local that I use for my personal taxes and for each of my businesses, my restaurant. But I also have someone separate that is up
Mhm.
in Pittsburgh
Mhm.
that I use for Point Northeast. And
Okay.
both are outstanding. Both are taking new clients. So I
Uh-huh.
can give you that information.
you.
We can put it into the show notes as well.
Mhm.
But I would say that's my best recommendation. I think the money spent,
Mhm.
you know, whether it's a couple $100s or less or whatever, of
Yeah.
like, do the final look.
Mhm.
And I also, and this is just for me,
Mhm.
I'm not comfortable with myself doing it. And
Yeah.
the money spent having someone else do it is worth it for
Mhm.
me, because again, but if your system's really simple and you feel comfortable starting it,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the month to month thing. I think when
That's
it
good.
when it comes
That's
to the
good.
taxes, that's where I'm like, I don't want to mess up.
yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame
So-
you.
I would say, 100% that having, doing your year-end stuff on your own, I think is highly risky and not worth. But I do feel like you have to be on your month-to-month, maybe having quarterly reviews. And I wouldn't wait till the year end, because sometimes it's too late. You can't go back in time and capture an opportunity. So having somebody, if you're only going to do once a year, have them looking in the third quarter to try to direct you where you need to be to make any last minute plans. But I'm a big fan of quarterly reviews, and I'm also a big fan of having my thumb on the pulse of what's going on, because no one knows better than you do what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And so many small business owners think, oh, that's my accountant's issue and I don't worry about those. And that's it's a recipe for disaster. So I think keep doing your day-to-day stuff quarterly, or maybe third quarter review, and 100% have somebody do your year-end stuff. I would never touch it.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I really agree. I think there's just too much risk, and
Mhm.
I would hate to see you get tripped up by something and owe back or be
Yeah,
in
and it's
trouble.
not the time of year you want to be
Oh,
dealing with that
no
either.
question.
So
Yeah, and I know how organized you are, so I would imagine like some of these proactive things might even save you time later. Like the
Mhm.
quarterly review is excellent.
yeah, I like
And
that idea.
ironically, I had my quarterly review yesterday afternoon
Mhm.
with my financial planner who's in Minnesota. I've been using him since I was 22, my CPA who's here locally, and my fractional CFO. And I would say because I have Point Northeast and Trasca, it does get a little complicated. So they got on the phone with me yesterday and we went through how are we closing the year? What payroll am I taking? We have a 401k for Trasca. So how is that going to play out? What contributions do I want to make? All those sorts of things. And honestly, I end up listening more than talking, which is such a relief to me because I don't want to be.
Yeah, please tell me what to do.
Exactly.
When I set up my
There's
solo 401k too,
Yeah.
I think last year or the year before for Polydot, that's my company's name. It was a similar thing. I'm like, I know I need to do this. I would like to. Tell me what to do.
Exactly.
I don't know,
Yeah.
So.
Well,
And
go ahead.
just one other thing that you didn't bring up, which I think is really, really important. So many small business owners are of the opinion that at the end of my career, I'm going to sell my business and ride off to the sunset. And you really need to have a 401k plan or a retirement plan, because when you get to the end, people are not considering their tax basis, what's your cost basis in the business, and wait, if I sell it for $1 million, what do you mean I'm going to pay $500,000 in taxes, or it's not worth $1 million, it's worth a fraction of that because things have changed. So really having your 401k plan set up and your retirement plan, so important.
The other side of that too is depending on how you set up your own salary, what you paid into this like Social Security benefit.
Exactly.
If you're thinking I'll sell it and I'll have all this, but I mean, and who knows what Social Security will be like when we retire anyway, but those things that people take for granted that as a small business owner, it's not quite the same as like a regular employee of another business.
Yeah.
And just general numbers, which is as you get to retirement age and people start telling you for every $1 million you've saved, it's $40,000 a year in income. And it's like, wow, that's, if you start doing the math, you need lots of multiples to be able to support your lifestyle. So it's a bit of a wake up call, and especially when you're comparing to some of the pension plans and things that are out there. And generally speaking, self-employed people have a higher lifestyle as they're going through. And then if they get to the end of the road, it's like maybe not so great. So we want to make sure we're planning ahead.
Yeah. On that note, I don't know if you have a financial planner. Okay, you do. Okay, good. One of the things that my financial planner was very careful on is, my husband is a teacher and teachers get paid pennies for what they're worth. It's really a shame. But protecting myself because I am the kind of the primary salary earner in our family. So disability, long-term disability, key man insurance. I mean, there are a lot of things as a solo practitioner or a small business owner that you have to make sure you're protecting your family.
Yeah.
So hopefully your
and like the life insurance, reevaluating that. I mean, if you start off and you're not the breadwinner because you're a startup, but then eventually that becomes a bigger part or the biggest part of your family's income, revisit that.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's really good. So I think maybe we can even put a little bit of just kind of in the notes from today, financial planner being really important. I'm so glad you have that. I have a good CPA to recommend to you. In fact, I have two. And then there is a woman on our team that does a lot of kind of fractional CFO work. She is my fractional CFO, but she works with a lot of our clients at Point Northeast as well and can help people set up the QuickBooks, the accounting. She just had me set up a separate credit card, which I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant because it's tied to QuickBooks and every expense I make now just automatically feeds into there. It eliminates the need for me to do an expense report, which I was like, phew, I hated those anyway. So that's great. So, okay. So, did we answer your first question?
Yes. I think you're right. I mean, it's nice to like have that said back to me of get help, even with, but yes, I like to be in there monthly, but having somebody just look over and make sure that knows what they're doing. Because even if I'm right, I'm not going to know that I'm right. You know what I mean? I don't have enough knowledge to feel confident. And I would love the recommendations to get that.
Yeah. And you're so detail oriented. I know you so well, but I would say, think of yourself as a team with them too. Like they may not catch something and you may catch it, like which was the example of the last one. They're lucky that they have you and you're lucky that you are that way. But also like they should be catching 3 times the amount of mistakes that you may have made. I mean, it's just like that's what they do. So I would say.
But yeah, I mean, if the mental load too of thinking, oh, even though I am paying the service, I'm responsible for making sure it's right. And they're not. And they should be.
That is worth a lot.
Yes. So I would like to have my mental load lessened.
I think that's really important.
Yes.
Okay.
One of the point that you brought up was about the cost of things going up and margin compressions. When you're categorizing, and I think people tend to, in my experience, people tend to really, pendulum swing too far or not far enough in breaking down your expenses. If it's so granular that you can't see a pattern or the big picture, it's a problem. And if it's not granular enough, it's a problem. You really need to be able to find the balance in categorizing your expenses and putting these together so and can make decisions on, is there an opportunity here for me to find a savings to pick up some margin, things like that.
I mean, it sounds like you're looking at it with a fine-tooth comb. I would say when you were saying that, Mike, it reminds me of the restaurant, of course, because we have all of these vendors. So every month when we look through the P&L, it's, our expenses for getting the towels in. So they dry clean them, they bring them back completely sanitized, and then we use them, and then we put them in the dirty hamper and etc. But those guys, like if you're not watching, it goes from like, 120 to like 300. And it's like, wait a minute.
Sometimes they count on that.
Totally. Totally. So I do think like really being, kind of aware and watching it is important. And then I would say, it might not be a bad idea to have someone, and maybe it's, someone you trust, like a coach, an outside person that's like looking at it and thinking or knowing your industry to say, gosh, it seems like you should not have that expense. It seems like, or you should be writing off part of your internet, or you should be taking a deduction or something. Like there could be some nuance.
Those are the little things. Yeah. I mean, that's something, again, because like you said, I'm just a curious person and I want to go over research everything. I was doing all those things right, but it was nice to have someone say, are you doing this? Yes. And then you start to calm down, like, okay, I'm doing a good job.
That's
or
really
if you didn't, it's a nice thing to know. But yeah, I think the other side of it too is, we're all businesses, right? And we use businesses to help us run our businesses. And so we all know we're in the same boat of the inflation and all these things. So for me, like you said, I work with a lot of big brands, and I knew they all had they publicly announce when they're raising their rates and things like that. So, I never really increased what I charge for what I do. I didn't really need to. It was okay. And actually, when I worked with small businesses, I reduced it a little bit to say, we're all in hard times. Like, I'm not going to raise it. I'm going to reduce it a little bit. And that was interesting because for me, it was just, there's only a handful of them that are really small.
Yeah.
And they were so appreciative. And now that's a relationship that's going to be there forever, you know? So it was already a good one, but that's something to think about too, I think. And just remembering that we really are all in similar dilemmas sometimes.
Although I'm not sure that a price increase isn't a bad idea for you. I mean, I would say, you know, again, I'm relating to some of the work we do with our clients and then again to the restaurant of like, if we have increases because of inflation, we have to take a price increase.
And I think for me, it was like, but my expenses, I don't have all the vendors that you have where my expenses were going crazy. My household expenses were.
Yeah.
But I didn't, again, my only cost that was regular was this accounting service. And they hadn't raised their price on me until now. But I do, the other thing is I knew it was probably due for an increase. And some of my clients are really great and they just increase me. I don't even have to ask. But that leads us back to that AI thing.
Sure.
Now that generative AI is a thing and people have to realize maybe it's not as great as they think it will be, the value of writing services is like a question right now.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So
I want to go back to the price increase for just a second.
Okay.
I would say if you're looking at the products that you're servicing, make sure that you are pricing according to the value of what you're delivering.
Yes.
Because if it's again, like you may not see this or you may be too close to it. I don't know this, but like a 50-word social media post has the same, if not more value than a 500-word essay that you might be doing for a blog, for someone's website or whatever. Like, remember that the value is what you need
not
to be
necessarily
pricing.
the time.
That's right.
But the value.
That's right.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering if that will help you increase your margins a bit to cover. Because remember, to your first point, your work-life balance is the reason why you've made decisions to do the things you're doing.
Yes.
We don't want you working more hours because your home life has increased. I mean, your value has also increased at the same rate, or if not at more, because you continue to build experience. And, you know, I mean, I'm thinking of myself, like, confidence in what you're doing, your ability to serve people only gets better and better. So your value is only getting increased. And so again, I would look at it as, I know that you don't have avocado vendors, but if your life expenses are increasing, I don't want you working more to cover that. I want you charging more.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Yeah, time is your most valuable asset, right? We can't buy any more of it, and we can only spend it. So, and I also think, you know, your company's health is important to the other companies that you support. So if you put your company at risk where you decide, I'm not going to do this anymore, now you're not providing a service that's very valuable to your clients. So it's important, you know, put your mask on first scenario.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so now to AI.
Yeah.
You know, when you were first talking, I was thinking, like, what are the uses of AI and how are they impacting? So maybe talk a little bit about that just so I can frame my thoughts.
Yes.
So, articles, what are people using this generative AI? Is it like ChatGPT, by the way?
It's ChatGPT. That's like the first example everybody thinks of is ChatGPT. There are other ones, and there's a newer, more expensive version of ChatGPT.
Oh.
So, and you know, it's not going to end.
Right.
So the uses of it, I think, you know, lots of, some of it is just somebody saying, oh, I'm horrible at writing an email about, whatever, price increases. And I want ChatGPT to just give me a spark of an idea of what I could say. Or even like amending a contract, which again, like that really affects the legal industry. They're very concerned about this because, and a lot of it goes into how this AI is, what is it trained on? So training AI is the models of data.
Right.
And I'm not an expert. So if you ever get really interested, please go read about it. But it's the training for AI is the data that goes into it, what it learns from.
Okay.
So something like OpenAI's ChatGPT, it's trained on the internet. I mean, like, to keep it very simple, the creators are saying, you know, it's hard to, you have to be concerned about AI being biased. So how you're training it, you have to make sure that the data you train it on doesn't have inherent unrecognizable bias that the creators have without, not knowing that they do. So there have been issues in the past where AI programs are revealed to be biased against women or against people of color, especially when it comes to like applicant tracking systems and resume screening, and writing job descriptions, things that turn off women versus men or things like that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So bias has always been an issue with AI.
Okay.
So sometimes they'll say, well, the more data we can pump it in, because especially with the internet, there's so much, crap. I know it's a really bad word. So much crap on the internet. And so they're thinking, well, let's just give it the whole internet because then it's going to get all the good stuff too.
Yep.
Okay, but it's still getting all the crap.
Right.
And eventually, if there's more and more and more AI generated content on the internet, it's training itself.
Ooh.
And the scary thing is, you can't fact check it the same way you can an article written by someone like me, where I say, here are all my sources. I make sure to choose only credible sources. I can link back to all of them. If you write something on AI, and this is something I think small business owners who use it say, I'm going to use it to write an article about whatever it is.
Yep.
If they're not heavily editing it themselves, which takes time, then they run the risk of having something untrue, something biased that they're publishing. And they can't go, it would take them a lot of time to say, let me go make sure all of this is right. At that point, you might as well write the article yourself. But I think people they just are excited about it. And it's especially being used a lot for email, for marketing copy. So headlines, write a catchy social media post for me. So again, it sounds promising in terms of time return and cost reduction. But if you're going to do it safely, does it?
Yeah.
You
well,
know?
I mean, my very first initial reaction is just that, I mean, I pride myself on authenticity. And I would say, like, my businesses are as authentic as they come. Like, I'll tell anyone anything. Like, I have no vulnerability. I mean, I have nothing that I'm not willing to be.
I'm not vulnerable at all.
Exactly. Wait, I said that. That's the more on vulnerability. But no, but seriously, I really believe in authenticity. And I think the artistry of things is important to me. Now, on the other hand, you know, I have seen some incredible uses of AI, like in the battle against cancer, and the amount of things that, so I know that there's a good balancing act.
But we don't want to give our creativity and strategy and critical thinking skills, we don't want to let them atrophy because we're relying too heavily on AI. And I think the other thing as a writer is some writers are saying, and I've seen this on a lot of freelance writing blogs, where they say it's going to be a tool that helps you increase your output. Because I could go say, hey, GPT, please write an article for me on this. I want it to be around 1,000 words, and write it so that an 8th grader could understand it, because a lot of web content is done that way. And I can go edit it, but again, can I fact check it? Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Wow.
The other thing though is, so some writers are saying, you know what, this used to take me 3 hours. Now I can do it in 45 minutes, and I'll edit it. I'll make it really good. But eventually that's devaluing your work.
Right.
And more and more people are capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And so if that's going to flood the market with freelance writers who are really AI tool users, editors.
Yes.
And then the value of our work as a group of professionals will go down.
Right. Okay, so you are attracting clients that are big brands and people that are having content out there.
Yeah.
And they are attracting consumers or clients or whatever. So there's almost a couple of layers here. But I was kind of thinking, like, as you market yourself, would you ever use a slogan of like, I will never use?
I would. I don't know that's not a popular sentiment right now.
It's not.
There are some writers who will say that, or they'll say, you know, make sure your whole website isn't chat GPT'd and everyone can tell. I'll write it in your brand voice, but they're not saying I won't use the tools. To me, I'm like, I won't use the tools. My clients have asked me and I'm saying no.
Right.
Because again, for me, I don't want to lose that skill, that muscle of creativity and again, critical thinking. But yes, I would. I think a lot of people right now are saying, oh, you're kind of backward and that's not going to age well because AI is the future. And you should really be embracing AI and learning to use the tool. And, you know, so I think in general, and I don't know how long that'll last. We don't know how it's going to play out. I would kind of hope that the excitement dies down and we all know how to use it wisely. And people say, oh, you know what? It does take me a lot of time to edit AI content. I'd love to work with a great writer who can just do it and I trust them.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of points. So one, I think, it's great to be focused on, disruptive technologies that are coming to your industry. I was in the chauffeur transportation business. Uber was a disruptive, model to us. GPS, right, for chauffeurs that, used to know how the interstate system worked, and now just type in an address and off we go. So what I think is that, higher value. It's kind of like, what did the small retailer do when Home Depot came to town, or any of those sort of scenarios? Ace Hardware probably pivoted the best out of everyone. You go, they're specialized, and you just kind of keep moving your value up. So I know with our company, with the transportation business, when Uber became popular, companies like, Fortune 500 companies are not inclined to use an untested tool. So the things you're talking about, fact checking and all of these tools, are going to be more important. So maybe your mom and pop business is not going to be as concerned, and they will use AI, and companies like Google can tell you whether this was written by a human or not, right? So they're devaluing those posts. So it's really just elevating your business to be able to, find that the people that are going to line up with the value. And it sounds like you're already working with those great companies, but if it were me, I would just refine my effort on making sure that I'm really going into those avenues. And look, the mom and the landscape company, they're probably going to start using an AI tool to write it, because it's just not that important to them. It's kind of like people using
their website. They're not going to hire a developer.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to go do their own thing. So I think you just need to move, continue to focus on that higher level and refine where you're going. But I think it's great to be plugged in, especially at the level you're already operating at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, you talked a little bit about some of the reasons to not use
Mm-hmm.
an AI, like a generative AI. And I think those are the things I would really double down on, because if AI grows, those are the things that people are going to be now focused on. So here was my thought.
Mm-hmm.
If fact checking is the thing that is missing with ChatGPT written articles, is it possible that you could supplement your writing with like a fact checking department?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting it would be you, but it would be like, hey, if you're using ChatGPT, you're going to need to do fact checking because it's not doing that. So now I have a department of fact checkers.
Yeah, I think that's like a line of business for some people. It'll be the fact checkers. It'll be the brand voice technicians who go in. So yes. And like I said, I think for me, it would be like, okay, I'm going to hire a subcontractor to do this for me. Because to me, that's not interesting and fun.
Yeah.
It's important.
Right.
But it can be done by a lower level. Like, it's not really, if somebody hired me to do that and people have, I really want you to do all this copy for me. Okay. But for what you pay me, you can do it if you want to, but you could find someone who will do a decent job for way less than what I will charge you.
Right.
And sometimes they're still like, that's okay. It's just easy, whatever.
Yes.
So, but yes. And that'd be something where if I'm having a subcontractor do it, to your point, like, okay, then I pay that person what that's worth. And, but that way too, you're not alienating potential clients or.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think where, value is perception, right? So someone, you can't say different people value things individually. So I may find a greater value in having you write my articles because that's important to me, important to my brand, versus someone else is going to not find that value and they're going to use. So I think that's where the,
it's kind of back to your point, Mike, of saying, find the right types of clients for you, right? Like, find not only the people that care about it for like the risk averseness of having AI content, but also people who just have aligned values of, we care about humanity's creativity, keeping it with humans.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think of like some examples that are similar with like Patagonia. I'm not talking their writing. I'm talking their materials, right? Like, where are there places where people are not cutting corners because it's the right thing to do? And I kind of feel like maybe in those examples, maybe there are some good practices that you could employ. Like, I think about coffee beans, right? Like, you could go out and source crappy coffee beans from people who are using labor forces that are not paid well or are children labor. I mean, I don't know.
The fair trade industry. They make sure.
Yep. And then you have the people who are doing it right. And so then I'm thinking, like, how do you go and look at, the farmers in Colombia or wherever they're sourcing their coffee beans that are doing it right. And what are they doing to showcase we're doing it right? We're doing it the artisan's way. We're charging more because we're doing it the right way.
And then the people are happy to, the types of customers they are after are happy to pay that premium.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm just thinking of like the companies that like, I think every industry has that. In fact, I think the restaurant industry is fraught with a lot of people who don't do it the right way. And yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking too, you know, there may be at some point the types of organizations that crop up that are evaluating content. And I'm thinking fact checking or just like, you know, the newspaper industry or whatever, maybe newspaper wasn't a good example, like the news industry, where they are actually developing the types of people that can come in and comment on. And I was wondering,
they'll need that because the news industry is considering AI written journalism, which is terrifying.
Well, and I was wondering if like you could be an expert for them. Like that could be another source of revenue, is for you to be an expert on the value of non-generative AI writing. Or the expert on why the artistry is so important. You know, I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, there was a rumor that I think my children told me, but again, don't know if it's true, that a young gentleman, college student at maybe Princeton, was given like a pretty big grant or scholarship or something because he developed a product that could tell whether it was written by AI.
Well, really the best tool to see if it's AI is AI.
No way.
There are AI tools that they're more accurate, you know, so there's online reviews, okay? So generative AI is terrifying for people who need to use online reviews for things. I mean, it might be great for businesses that already buy fake reviews from like the content mills in other countries, and they just write a bunch of fake reviews. But now AI is making it easier. And so now there's another AI product that's saying we can detect AI generated content, and we're 3,000% more accurate than human readers, and who we ask, like, read these 10 reviews and tell me which ones are fake.
That's amazing.
So,
Okay.
So, I mean, really, are we going into a future like the Wall-E blob people?
Well, and is there going to be almost like, I'm thinking of like the Better Business Bureau, you know, that's like, ooh, this business is doing it great and this business is not.
So evaluating, like, yes, I think I see what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I was just wondering if there would be like,
so almost like a certification or a badge of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like your point about like the premium brands and the ones that are doing it right. And I think it really boils down to that, is that we're evolving. And I think as small business owners, we always need to evolve, and we always need to, reevaluate what we're doing and what's our product and what's the future going to hold. But yeah, the current climate will certainly pay more for perceived value when you line up your core values and all of those things. And certainly, following that path, I think, is going to be the best.
Me too. And I wouldn't be shy about it, in all honesty.
And I'm glad to hear that from both of you, because that's the way I would, like, morally and just in my core want to do it.
Yes.
I'm like, I've talked with my husband about this, who runs a medium business. He's like, you're gonna have to get ahead of it. And I'm just like, I can't do it. I'll just fold. But to your point, then the person who does do that is gone, and isn't available. So, and not that I want to just give up, but I'm just like, it's not in me. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Do I think you're bad if you use it? No, I think there are some good uses for people who use it for like brainstorming or something, or they're not great writers and they just want a turn of a phrase that helps them when they're writing their emails to someone. I mean, I think it's a nice tool. I also think, the more we all use it, the more impressive and better it gets at everything that it's doing. So to me, I'm just not going to use it.
Yeah.
But
I think, again, I would lean into that as part of your brand, in my opinion. I mean, I would say, I'm, again, thinking of other industries that have done this, and there's like Sargento cheese. Sargento cheese is very, very overt about the fact that they are real cheese from Wisconsin. And they talk about the farms that dairy
Just
cows.
unashamedly who you are.
Like
Yeah.
we're little and
Yeah.
we're happy to be little or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
In fact, I think I have a book up here somewhere that's called Small Giants, and it's
Oh, I've
literally,
seen- yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's about small businesses that were fine being small because they wanted to be the artisans of their
And that's
craft.
why they lasted.
Totally.
Because they stayed true to their mission, their vision,
Yes.
and didn't
Yes.
veer. And I think that's one thing too, again. So it's interesting what you just said made me think you're kind of saying the same thing as my husband, but with a different twist, where he's saying, get ahead of it, start to learn the tools, start to use it. And you're saying, get ahead of people on the other side who are like, actually, I don't want someone who does that.
Well, I think
And maybe it'll take a little more time because I think
Yeah.
people will have to feel some of the negative effects of
Yes.
having used these.
you know what? That's a really good point.
And then saying this person was never using it all along. She knew, and we're going to go use her
Yes.
because she does into it.
Well, and I can see the spark in your eye too. Truly,
Mhm.
like when you lean into the like, no, I'm not doing it because
Mhm.
I don't believe this is the right move, and I
Mhm.
want to be an artisan of my craft. Like I think
Mhm.
again, we talked about mental load.
Yes.
Like I think I can see
Mhm.
you light up, and I think that's worth.
Yeah, and if I was being
More
an
than
AI
anything.
editor, I would be like, here we go again. You know, it wouldn't be fun. I wouldn't have that. So,
I know.
mhm.
What do you think?
I think quality. It's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so number one,
Mhm.
I'm going to get you the names of some PPAs.
Yeah.
Number two,
Mhm.
think about your branding and coming
Yes.
forth with like this,
Like
like
open, not afraid
real-
to say. Yes.
stamp of Ann Shaw. Like this is a real person.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think you're so authentic. I think it'll be so natural for you, and I think it'll
Thank you.
make you feel good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just great.
Mhm.
Well, did we solve your two problems?
Yes. I mean, it's also sometimes it's like a lot of people know how they feel, but they need to be told it's okay to feel that way. Go
Heck
there.
yeah.
You know? So that's really, again, I think for me a lot of times it's like I think I know, but there's not that confidence or peace of mind, and it's just helpful. And the idea of making that part of the brand.
Yeah.
So, and I just will love having another like CPA in my pocket.
Yep. Absolutely.
with
I've got
that.
two, in fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got
Mhm.
two good CPAs that I
Great.
know will help you. So,
Mhm.
I mean, thank you again.
Mhm.
As we
It's been fun.
move to close. I mean, really, really, I think my number one moment of gratitude is thank you for trusting us with like kind of your, what's keeping me up at night moments. Like that's really, I'm honored. And it was a lot of fun. So, hey, Mike, you look like you even had fun.
I want to know
We did it.
writing me, and then I want to know how it went for you, Mike, not knowing what I was gonna.
Yeah, it was a complete surprise. No, it's exciting. It is. And even though I didn't agree on the front end, I do agree now. So thank you.
Are we gonna stop and he'll be like, let's never do that again?
Yeah.
You were a good sport. You really were. And I thought we really made some good magic in this hour. So hour-ish. But thank you, truly.
Yeah,
thanks for coming
of course. Thank you,
over.
guys.
I know we live near each other, but
Mhm.
still, thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. And
I'm glad I did. I
All
got
right.
to see you in person.
I always love seeing you. Well, Mike,
It's so nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too, Mike. Thank you so much for.
now you got a writer too for some of your big businesses that you help.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, both of you, and have a great rest of your afternoon. If anybody else out there is listening and watching and wants to be a part of this for their free business guidance podcast with us,
The free hour
Please.
help.
please pass it on because we'd love to have anyone from any industry with any challenge. So, okay. See you soon, Mike.
Thanks. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Level Up Your Business with me, Sara Frasca. If you have a problem in your business that's keeping you up at night, please join us in a future episode so we can help get you unstuck. Just click in the link in the show notes and send us a message. Please remember, stay innovative, friends.